Historically, landscape painting is violent. It's about possession of the land. Even though it might be plastered over with beautiful lighting and vast views, it's based on empty landscape. Well, how did the landscape get emptied? When the European folks came over, they were being sold this propaganda of empty landscape, yours for the taking. Those are all tactics. They're all tactics to make good Christian European white folks feel good, or at least neutral about their sense of belonging in a place that was stolen. My work changed when I moved back home, when I moved to northern Minnesota, because it got more introspective. This is where my family is originally from. I am a descendant of Grand Portage, which is about 30 miles up the road, up the shore. This is the land of Lake Superior, of freshwater, and in the woods. It's Anishinaabe territory, and it's home for me. One of the main, I think, elements to all of the work is this idea of land and landscape. Some of those landscapes are imagined and temporary. Others you have to kind of work for as a viewer of the work. I'll sometimes stack landscapes. Through that iteration, it's suggesting of time. Rome is built on Rome is built on Rome, or turtles all the way down. There's these buried histories or buried stories that are still with us. They're still right below our feet. We're adding to them. We're adding layers to it. Historically, in Ojibwe storytelling, we have this main character, Nanabuju, who walks on the shoreline. When I walk on the shore, I'll hear my footfalls. I'll hear the waves rhythmically kind of lap up on the shore. And it puts me into a meditative space where I draw out information or imagery or ideas. And I think that is what he's doing in those stories too. I think they start from that meditative space. And I think that's where poetry comes from and music comes from. This transition between water and land, these transitional spaces, the penumbra, these spaces within borders are really important, I think, to a creative process. Often in my work, there are objects and references to things that are a little bit mismatched. A pen and ink horse that my great-grand-aunt had drawn before she died of the Spanish flu. Birch bark cutout patterns of flowers that were used to make templates for beadwork. The little cedar spirit tree up in Grand Portage. There's hollow rocks from Portage. Signatures of people who've influenced me. Things like the Migas shell, the cowrie shell, which is a shell that was used in the Ojibwe migration. So there's a lot of objects that reference like the movement of stories or where stories go or where they end up. I also use a lot of symmetry in my work, maybe a double cascading off, or maybe it would look as though it's the wake behind a boat or the waves on a lake. And I think that's part of how I organize space, is based on shorelines and based on water, but also based on breaking apart the stasis of 2D work. How do you put time into that? How do you put time into two-dimensional art? There is kind of a view of the landscape that it needs to be isolated, confined, deeded, and preserved. Land changes. It has to change. I use the iteration to give it some movement, to give it a multiple existence in the same space. You can't hold it all in your head at the same time. You're forced to make decisions with what you're looking at in a way where you're not able to possess it all at once.